Great founders are like great coaches. They understand that building a winning business isn't about more hustle, it's about great leadership. And nobody exemplifies that better than Dan Campbell. He took a team that was in the gutter and turned them into a dominating force. But how did he do it? Through the lens of the 9 core plays that every business owner needs in their playbook. If you do these right, your company, your free time, and your sanity will see explosive growth, just like the Detroit Lions. Let's get into it.
What are we? What makes us what we are and what we're going to be? I think it's that right there. It's grit.
Dan Campbell didn't show up with some wishy-washy mission. He brought fire, identity, and a long-term vision to the Lions. He set clear expectations, and everyone knew what they had to do. And that's what's really important for your company. You need to have a clear vision and clear goals because that gives direction. And that's 2 out of the 9 core plays that every great business needs to have. So this is a mountain, okay? This is just an example. This is a mountain. At the top is a championship culture. That's Dan's vision. That's his 10-year goal. That's really what he's trying to accomplish, to turn around the Lions and turn them into a championship culture so that they could be a championship team for the city of Detroit. Now here's Dan at the bottom of the mountain. Now Dan's looking up at this. He's got this long vision, right? And that's really far out. So you have to break it down into goals that people could look at and understand, because not everybody in your company can think 10 years out. Not everybody in your company could think 3 years out or 1 year. That's your job and the senior leadership team's job to identify goals that are going to be marching towards your vision. So you take that 10-year goal and you break that down into a 3-year goal. Then once you have that 3-year goal, you break it down to a 1-year goal. And last but certainly not least, you break them down into 90-day goals, or what we like to call in the business operating system world, rocks. And you take everybody, you share your belief, you share your goals, you give them goals that they need to hit, and you're marching towards this mountain. And that's what everybody in your company needs to be doing. And that's what Dan Campbell did with the Lions. He gave them a sense of direction, a sense of identity. He was in charge of getting everyone fired up, his staff, the players, even the people that came to the games, right? And so this is super important for you and your company that you have these 2 things identified, vision and goals. And if they're not identified, take some time, really think about what are you trying to create? What's the vision for this company? Step out of the day-to-day, take a couple days off, get away from working in the business and work on the business, and identify your vision and goals so that everybody, including you, could have a clear direction on where you're going and what you need to do to get there.
Give the game ball to coach.
Now, after you have your vision and your goals complete, it's time to start focusing on your culture and your people. At one point, Dan had a terrible record. I think something like 4-18-1. Did people lose faith in him? No. Did his team lose faith in him? No. Did the front office lose faith in him? No, because they understood the culture that he was building. It's not going to be done in a day. It's not going to be done in a week. And I'm really sorry if you're impatient, but these things take time. You got to weed out the people that aren't good fits for you. You got to hire the right people that are the good fits for your culture. And most importantly, you have to identify what kind of culture you are trying to create so that you know exactly the people that you are attracting to the team. And for Dan, his core values, he had 3: hard work, ownership, and unity. And he was the champion of all these, right? When you watch him in his interviews or on Hard Knocks, you see him embodying all these values. And that's what's super important too. You can make up any set of core values, but if you're walking around and you're living the opposite way of those core values, people are going to know that and see it, and they're going to start living the values that you display, not the values that you have on the wall. So when you're creating these core values, you need to own them 100% all the time. And I know that's a tall ask for a founder, because a lot of people started businesses. Why? Because they didn't want a boss. They didn't want accountability. But I will tell you this. Any person that's trying to build a big business, a business with impact, a business that builds wealth, a business that changes lives for not only their customers, but their employees, you need accountability, because everybody needs it together to move forward. It has to be one ecosystem. And so these were his core values, right? And he walked around and he embodied these core values. Hard work. You see him even doing workouts with the team. When there's screw ups, when you see him in the press conference, he takes ownership for every mistake that team makes. He doesn't pass the buck on anybody. And then lastly, unity. He keeps everybody together. He keeps his team together, creates a sense of unity inside the organization from everywhere, the front office and the players. And these core values are super important for you to create the culture and attract the people that you want. Do not skip this step. This is easy to skip. And more importantly, this is going to require you as the founder to be a little bit better. And everybody needs to be a little bit better. So what if you're going to have a little growing pain? So what if you're going to have to admit your mistakes in front of people and say that you've been coming up short? Be vulnerable, just like Dan is, and you will create a championship culture in your company, no doubt. Want to know if your business is built like a championship team? Take the 9 core plays quiz in the link below to find out exactly what's holding your company back from achieving greatness.
This team is going to take on the identity of this city, all right? And the city's been down, and it found a way to get up. All right, it's found a way to overcome adversity.
Dan not only built a championship caliber team, he built the exact team for the city of Detroit. He understood his ideal customer, right? He knows that this is a blue collar. They get their hands dirty. They're gritty. And this was all things Dan did to build not only a championship team, but a team that reflected the city that he was in. If you look at the stadium now, people are going crazy for the Detroit Lions. People that don't even live in Detroit love the Detroit Lions. Why? Because Dan understands who his ideal fan is. Who are the people that are going to really reflect the culture that he's building and identify with them? And that's super important for you in your business. Do you understand your ideal customer? Are you building your business around them? Are you reflecting their values and how you serve them, how you sell to them, how you fulfill your orders for them? Or are you just something a little different? And maybe that's why people aren't buying from you, because they're not identifying with your brand, because you aren't building a business around your customer. And that's what you need to be doing. You need to have everything centered around that customer in the middle. It's probably one of the best things that Amazon does, right? They put the customer first in everything they do. And it's the same thing for your business. It's the same thing that Dan Campbell did. So do you know your customers? It's the real question here. Do you know them? Do you really understand them? Are you talking to them? Are you building relationships with them? Are you identifying their problems? Are you identifying their motivations? Are you really getting deep with them and understanding who you're serving and what really matters to them? Because Dan Campbell did that. And now look at that team in Detroit. I bet you they're selling more jerseys, more gear, more people at the stadium. Tickets are more expensive. It's driving their business because their business reflects their customers and not the other way around. So you need to put the customer at the center of everything you do. It's important to have your vision. It's important to have your goals. It's important to think about your culture. And then next, you need to think about who you are serving. That's what makes businesses great. And that's what separates good businesses from great businesses.
2 fourth down decisions that were critical in the second half. Neither one was converted. Particularly the second one. Why not take a field goal there and maybe stem the bleeding a little bit?
Yeah, I just felt really good about us converting and getting our momentum and not letting them play long ball.
One of my favorite parts of watching Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions is how they go for it on the 4th downs, right? Most football, 3, they punt it and it's over. They turn the ball over and they move on to the next set of downs with the team. But I love how Dan Campbell goes for it. Now, he doesn't just go for it from his gut. He goes from it with data. And that's one of the key plays in the 9 core competencies, knowing your data. If you know your data, you could take chances, you could make moves because you understand the probabilities. And for many of you, you're out there running your business based solely on your gut. Now that's wonderful, and that could get you to a certain place. Nowadays, with all the data and all the technology available, eventually you're going to lose to somebody that has data because they're going to be making better bets than you are. And that's a key part of the game, right? This is all gambling, right? This is probabilities. And if you don't have data, you're just shooting from the hip, 100-to-1 odds and hoping something works. And so Dan has a 4th down decision matrix, right? Win percentage, yardage. He understands his opponent's trends. And then he makes a decision to go for 4th down. Now, this all happens very quickly because he has his data and he knows, right? He gets a feeling in his gut. He reflects on the data and then he makes the right decision. Now you might say, oh, Angelo, he doesn't make every 4th down, but on the majority of them, he does. Sure, he might miss a couple, but he's making great bets to move his team forward, and that's what made the Lions great. over these last few years is taking those chances on fourth down, surprising other teams, getting the jump on them because he had data driving his decisions. Now for you and your business, I want you to reflect and ask yourself, are you making data-driven decisions? Are you really looking at numbers? And if you are these numbers the real numbers that matter for your business? Because it's not enough just to have a couple spreadsheets with a bunch of pieces of data. And are you doing that? Do you have the exact numbers that you need to be looking at, the exact data set, so that you could be making the right decisions for your businesses? Because there's going to be little pivots along the way, along that journey to that 10-year vision, and data is what backs up those decisions. Start tracking data. Don't wait for your gut to tell you what dashboards already know.
Ready?
Let's go, Dan! Pay your dues, man! Pay your dues!
Fast, Mo.
The Lions have a clear weekly cadence, right? They have a process. They're not just winging it, right? And this is the meeting and process play inside a company's 9 core competencies. This is why this is so important, right? They have a weekly game plan. Monday, they're reviewing film. Tuesday, they game plan for the week. Wednesday, they have a practice, a soft practice. Thursday, they're executing how they're going to attack that team. Friday, they're tuning up anybody that might not be getting it. And then Sunday's game day, right? They know exactly what they're doing. They have a process and a weekly meeting cadence to force accountability to make sure everybody is executing really well. Now, it's the same thing for your business. Do you have a playbook? Do you have a way that you guys do things inside of your company, inside of each function of your business? Sales, marketing, operations, finance, HR? Or is everybody just winging it? And how do you know if everybody's winging it? Are you holding them accountable with meetings? Or is it all ad hoc? Is it just a waste of time when you do, right? You need to have these in your business because this is a part of moving everybody forward. Back to that vision drawing, right? We talked about that long-term vision, and this is when you break it down into small little steps to make sure that you're marching towards what you want. And for Dan's case, it's a championship culture. Now I'm going to throw it back at you. What about you? Do you have little weekly meetings to make sure everybody's on track? Do you have a way of holding everybody accountable on the team to make sure that they're executing well, that they're doing the right things, that they're getting their work done? And do you have processes for people to follow to make sure that work is consistent across all organization? I don't know if you do, but you definitely need it if you're going to scale. This is not optional. This needs to be there. So get good at running meetings, get good at holding people accountable, get good at making sure that there's processes in your company. I know a lot of founders are going to say, oh, Angelo, I don't like to follow processes. I like to wing it. That's great. You could maybe do that as the CEO, but I could assure you that the people that are hiring you need processes. If they wouldn't need processes, they would be your competitors. So you need to build processes for them. It helps their brain focus. It helps make sure that there's consistency across the organization. And then, of course, having meetings to make sure that everybody's following the right processes, to make sure that everybody's getting the work done, everybody's focused on their 90-day rocks, everybody's executing well. This all needs to take place. Dan does it, and so should you.
That's my job, is to replenish and find the next man up and the guy who's going to give us the best chance to have success on both sides of the ball.
In 2024, the Lions lost their offensive coordinator and their defensive coordinator, right? And for most people, most teams, most companies, if they lost their top 2 lieutenants, they would be over, right? But not Dan Campbell and the Lions. Why? Because they have structure and an exit plan, a succession plan, just in case someone would move on to another organization. That happens all the time in the NFL. You have a great season, you lose your offensive coordinator. You have a great season, you lose your defensive coordinator. They go on to head coaching jobs, and you want them to move forward, right? In your organization, you want people to build and grow. At least I hope you do. And sometimes that requires for people to leave your company. But if you are planning right, everything will be okay. So you got Dan here at the top, you got Glenn, and you got Johnson. They left, right? But they were building up people inside of this structure here, and they're able now to fulfill this role without missing a beat. These people have been developing people inside their organizations. Leaders need to be developing leaders. That is the key job for leaders, not to do anything, but to develop more leaders inside of your company. Whoever has the most leaders wins. That's the facts, right? And so I want you to look at this right now. Do you have a clear structure in your organization? Right? If someone left tomorrow, if your 2 top people left tomorrow, what would your business look like? You need to have plans in place. You need to have structure in place. and things in place to develop more leaders inside of your organization, Dan's ready to go. They got people to fill these roles, step right up and move forward. I'm going to throw that question back at you. If 2 top people left your company tomorrow, you just got emails and said they're moving on, thank you for everything, what would happen to your organization? What would happen to you? What would that feel like? And let that sink in right now. That feeling, although it's not probable, right, Angelo, it's a long shot, it can happen. Don't kid yourself. I've seen it happen before in organizations. Then all of a sudden, you're trying to jump in and scramble to do this. It doesn't have to be that way. Create structure, have an exit plan for not only yourself, but for people that could leave your organization. Know what it's like if your top people leave, because you don't want anything happening in your business that you're going to miss a beat. So structure and exit are the last 2 core plays that every business needs to be running inside of their organization, and you need to be getting on top of this if you haven't yet. If you're a founder that knows your business could be great, but you're stuck in the day-to-day, this is your wake-up call. Take the 9 core plays to see what's keeping you from scaling so you could go from hope to a plan that really works. And if you're feeling overwhelmed, wearing too many hats, sales, marketing, ops, finance, and even taking out the trash, watch this video and check out this simple framework that I use to go from an overwhelmed founder to building 4 businesses and exiting them inside of 4 years.